I never thought my voice would cost me my job, or rather, the lack of it. "You're just too quiet, Vivian," said Rosalind Mercer, wife of CEO Roland Mercer and self-appointed Director of Workplace Culture at Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. She sat across from me, her manicured nails tapping against her designer coffee mug, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "The clients need someone more dynamic, someone who commands attention." I'd been at Pinnacle for 4 years. 4 years of being the most reliable account manager they had. 4 years of pulling in more client revenue than anyone else on the team. 4 years of staying late, coming in early, and never once complaining. "But my client satisfaction ratings are the highest in the company," I said, my voice frustratingly, soft even to my own ears. I'd always been this way. Thoughtful, reserved, preferring to listen rather than speak. It had never been a problem before. "Numbers aren't everything, darling," Rosalind replied, waving her hand dismissively. "Roland and I have been discussing this for months. We need people who embody the Pinnacle spirit, people with charisma. People like Marcella Voss," I thought, bitterly. Marcella, who joined 6 months ago and immediately became Rosalind's favorite. Marcella, who spent more time laughing at Roland's jokes than actually working. Marcella, who is now apparently taking over my accounts. "I've brought in over $2 million in revenue this year alone," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Rosalind sighed dramatically. "See, this is exactly what I mean. Where's the passion? Where's the fire? It's decided, Vivian. We're letting you go. HR has your paperwork ready." Just like that. 4 years of dedication erased because I wasn't loud enough for the CEO's wife. As I packed my desk, I noticed Marcella watching from across the room, not even pretending to hide her smug smile. Something shifted inside me then. A quiet anger. I'd never allowed myself to feel before. I'd always been the responsible one, the one who followed the rules, who never rocked the boat. And where had it gotten me? That evening, as I nursed a glass of wine in my empty apartment, my laptop pinged with an email. It was from Dominic Rivera, my biggest client. "Heard what happened. Their loss. Let me know where you land next. My business follows you." I stared at those words for a long time. Then I opened a new document and began typing. First Dominic's name, then all my other clients' names, contact information, contract details, preferences. Everything stored in my methodical brain after years of careful relationship building. By midnight, I had compiled the entire client list of Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. Not from their database. I wasn't a thief. This was all from memory. All. The relationships I had cultivated personally. I took another sip of wine, feeling something new and dangerous unfurling inside me. They thought I was too quiet? Fine. I'd show them just how powerful silence could be. The first call came 3 days after my termination. "Vivienne, it's Dominic Rivera. Just had the strangest meeting with Marcella from Pinnacle. She didn't know anything about our Asia expansion. Plans. Said she couldn't find any notes in the system. Of course she couldn't. Those plans had been discussed over dinner at Dominic's favorite sushi restaurant. Just him and me, talking strategy while he trusted me enough to share his vision." "That's unfortunate," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Look, I'll be blunt. I don't want to work with her. Roland called me personally, said you were moving on to pursue other opportunities. What's really going on?" I hesitated. I'd always been the diplomatic one, the professional who never spoke ill of others. But something had cracked open inside me. "I was fired," I said simply, "for being too quiet." Dominic was silent for a moment, then burst into laughter. "You're kidding me. The woman who single-handedly negotiated that impossible contract with the Jung Group? Too quiet? Apparently I don't embody the Pinnacle spirit. Well, their loss is someone else's gain. Where are you heading next?" I hadn't thought that far ahead. I'd been too busy processing the humiliation, the injustice of it all. But Dominic's words sparked something. "I'm considering my options," I said carefully. "Consider this. I've got 3 colleagues looking for marketing support. Should I point them your way?" By the end of the week, I'd received calls from 7 Pinnacle clients. By the end of the month, it was 23. I started working as an independent consultant. From my home office, taking meetings, drafting proposals. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Then came the cease and desist letter. It has come to our attention that you are actively soliciting Pinnacle Marketing Solutions clients. The letter read, "This represents a violation of your non-compete agreement." I smiled as I read it. They'd never had me sign a non-compete. Rosalind had been too busy redecorating the office and planning company retreats to bother with proper HR protocols. I had checked before making my first call. My phone rang. Roland Mercer himself. "Vivian," he said, his voice artificially pleasant. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. Perhaps we could meet for coffee?" I thought about all the times I'd watched Roland take credit for my ideas in meetings. How he'd interrupt me, talk over me, then later present my exact strategies as his own. How Rosalind would beam at him proudly while shooting me looks that said, "See, this is how it's done." "I'm afraid I'm fully booked this week," I replied. "But feel free to email me your thoughts." The silence on the other end was deeply satisfying. "They're panicking," said Kira Blackwell, taking a sip of her martini. Kira had been my colleague at Pinnacle, the only person who had ever really seen me there. We'd bonded over being the only two women of color in senior positions, both of us constantly having to prove ourselves while watching mediocre men get promoted above us. "How bad is it?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Bad. Marcella can't handle the workload. Half the clients are complaining that no one understands their accounts. Roland's been in closed-door meetings for days. And Rosalind?" Kira smirked. "Rosalind is telling everyone you're having a nervous breakdown, that you're unstable and vindictive." I should have been angry, but instead I felt strangely calm. "And what do people think about that?" "No one's buying it. You were always the stable one, the one who fixed everyone else's messes." I nodded slowly. "And you? Are you okay there?" Kira's expression shifted. "They're watching me now, like they're waiting for me to betray them too." She leaned forward. "But here's the interesting part. The Hendricks account, they're pulling out completely. 7 figures, walking away. The Hendricks account had been mine originally. I'd brought them in 2 years ago, nurtured the relationship personally. After I left, they'd apparently been passed to Marcella. Did they say why? Officially? Strategic realignment. Unofficially? Bernard Hendricks told Roland that his company doesn't partner with organizations that discard talent based on personality rather than performance. I felt a surge of vindication. Bernard had always been fair, always valued substance over style. "There's more," Kira continued, lowering her voice. "The Wellington Group is reviewing their contract, and Rosalind is furious that you're not responding to Roland's calls." "I'm not obligated to speak to him," I said. "Exactly. And it's driving them crazy." Kira gave me a serious look. "They underestimated you, V. They thought because you were quiet, you were weak." I smiled slightly. A common misconception. That night, I received an email from Roland himself. "Vivienne, this situation has gotten out of hand. We valued your contributions at Pinnacle, and I personally feel your departure was handled inappropriately. I'd like to offer you a position as Senior Account Director with a 30% salary increase and a seat on the executive committee. We need you back." Roland, I read it 3 times, letting the satisfaction wash over me. Then I crafted my reply. "Roland, thank you for your offer. After careful consideration, I must decline. My consultancy is doing well, and I value the direct relationships I've built with my clients. Best regards, Vivian Short. Professional, final. And absolutely devastating in its quietness." The rumors started circulating 6 weeks after my departure. "Pinnacle's in trouble," said Dominic Rivera over lunch. We were discussing his new campaign, but he seemed distracted. "Word is they've lost almost 40% of their client base." I kept my expression neutral. "Markets can be volatile," Dominic gave me a knowing look. "This isn't market volatility, Vivienne. This is an exodus, and everybody knows why." He leaned forward. "You never actively poached a single client, did you? You just let your work speak for itself." I took a sip of water. "I simply continued providing the same service I always have." "Brilliant," he chuckled. "Absolutely brilliant." Later that day, I received a text from Kira. "Need to talk." "Coffee tomorrow?" "What?" "Met at a small cafe far from the Pinnacle offices." Kira looked exhausted. "They're doing layoffs," she said without preamble. 15 people so far. They're saying it's restructuring, but everyone knows it's because they're hemorrhaging clients. I felt a pang of guilt. I never meant for people to lose their jobs. This isn't on you, Kira said firmly. This is on Roland and Rosalind. They created this toxic culture where only the loud and showy get recognized. They're reaping what they sowed. She pushed a folder across the table. They're planning to sue you, claiming you stole proprietary client information. I opened the folder. Inside was a draft of a legal complaint, clearly printed from Pinnacle's system. Can they do this? I asked. They can try, but I've been talking to legal. Without a non-compete, and given that you haven't used any proprietary systems or documents, they don't have much of a case. It's just intimidation. I closed the folder. Why are you showing me this, Kira? You could get fired. She looked me directly in the eyes. Because I'm next. They've already started marginalizing me in meetings. Rosalind accidentally left me off 3 important email chains last week. I'm not going down with that ship. What will you do? I've been updating my resume, but I wanted to ask. She hesitated. Is your client list full? Because I've got skills that could complement yours. I studied my friend. Kira was brilliant, strategic, creative, and fearless in a way I never was. We'd always worked well together, balancing each other's strengths and weaknesses. Are you proposing a partnership? I asked. I'm proposing we build something better than Pinnacle ever was, she replied. Something based on actual merit, not politics and personalities. That night I couldn't sleep. I thought about all the quiet people I'd known throughout my career. Brilliant minds who were passed over because they didn't command the room. People like me who'd learned to navigate systems designed to reward the loudest voice, not the most valuable contribution. By morning, I had made my decision. I drafted a business proposal for a new kind of marketing agency, one that would value substance over style, results over rhetoric. I called it Resonance, because sometimes the quietest voices carry the furthest. Rosalind Mercer cornered me in the parking garage of my apartment building 3 months after I left Pinnacle. You've destroyed everything, she said, her perfectly made-up face contorted with anger. Do you have any idea what you've done? I maintained my composure, though my heart was racing. I'm just doing my job, Rosalind, the same job I've always done. Don't give me that innocent act. You deliberately sabotaged us. Roland might be too blind to see it, but I know exactly what you did. I adjusted my bag on my shoulder. And what was that exactly? You took our clients, our livelihood. I didn't take anyone. They followed me of their own accord, because you poisoned them against us. I shook my head. No, Rosalind, they left because they valued the work I did for them. Work that you and Roland dismissed as insignificant because I didn't present it loudly enough for your taste. Her eyes narrowed. We're suing you. You'll never work in this industry again. I received your legal notice, I said calmly. My attorney has responded. But before you proceed, you might want to consider something. A lawsuit means discovery. Every email, every conversation about why I was really terminated will become public record, including those where you referred to me as that mousy little thing who never speaks up. Is that really what you want? The color drained from her face. How did you... People talk, Rosalind, especially to those who know how to listen. I stepped around her and continued walking. Behind me, I heard her angry breathing, the click of her expensive heels on concrete. This isn't over, she called after me, but it was. We both knew it. Resonance marketing was growing faster than I could have imagined. Kira and I had leased a small office space, hired 2 junior associates, and were already turning a profit. Our client list included not just former Pinnacle accounts, but new businesses who had heard about our approach. We don't just market products, our website read. We amplify voices worth hearing. It was more than a slogan, it was our philosophy. We sought out companies with substance, those offering real value, not just noise. Our team was deliberately diverse, including people who would never have thrived in Pinnacle's environment, like Naomi Takeda, our new design director. Brilliant, introspective, and frequently overlooked at her previous firm because she didn't put herself out there enough. Under our mentorship, she was creating the most innovative campaigns of her career. It's strange, she told me one evening as we worked late. I've never felt so heard, even though I'm not talking any more than I used to. That's because we're actually listening, I replied. The irony wasn't lost on me. Getting fired for being too quiet had led me to create a space where quietness was finally valued, where thoughtfulness wasn't mistaken for weakness, where substance mattered more than spectacle. A week later, I received a call from an unknown number. "Vivian, it's Roland Mercer." I nearly declined the call, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello, Roland. I wanted to talk to you directly. No lawyers, no threats, just a conversation." "I'm listening." He sighed heavily. "Pinnacle is struggling. We've lost almost 60% of our client base. The board is calling for my resignation." I said nothing, waiting for him to continue. "I was wrong," he finally said. "We were wrong. About you, about what makes a valuable employee, about a lot of things." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to make you an offer. Not to come back, I know that ship has sailed, but to consider a merger. Your company with what's left of mine." I almost laughed. "You want me to save you?" "I want to save the people who still work for me. Good people who don't deserve to lose their jobs because of my mistakes." For a moment, I felt a twinge of compassion. Then I remembered how easily he had discarded me, how quickly he had accepted his wife's assessment of my worth. "I'm sorry, Roland. That's not possible." "Please, just think about it." "I have thought about it. My answer is no." The line was silent for a long moment. "And Rosalind? The lawsuit?" "That's between your lawyers and mine." After I hung up, I sat at my desk for a long time, thinking about power, how it works, how it shifts, how the quiet ones often have more of it than anyone realizes. The lawsuit never went to court. Pinnacle Marketing Solutions filed for bankruptcy protection 8 months after my departure. The official reason was market conditions. But everyone in the industry knew the truth. I watched it unfold from afar, feeling a complex mixture of vindication and sadness. I had never wanted to destroy Pinnacle. I had just wanted to be valued for my work. Kira and I were in our new offices, reviewing applications for 3 new positions we'd opened. Resonance had grown to 15 employees, with a waiting list of clients. "Look at this one," Kira said, passing me a resume. "Marcella Voss." I stared at the name in disbelief. Rosalind's favorite? The very same. Apparently she's passionate about our mission of amplifying authentic voices. Kira's tone was dry. "Interesting career pivot," I murmured, scanning the resume. "She's actually quite qualified." "You can't be serious," Kira said, eyebrows raised. "After everything she did?" I thought about it. What did she actually do, though, apart from benefit? From a system that was designed to favor people like her? "She took your job. A job I never should have lost in the first place." I set the resume aside. "I'll think about it." Later that evening, as I was leaving the office, I ran into Naomi, our design director. "Big news," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "We've been shortlisted for the Archer Innovation Award." The Archer was the most prestigious recognition in our industry. Pinnacle had been chasing it for years. "That's incredible," I said, genuinely surprised. "For which campaign?" "The Halcyon Project." The judges specifically mentioned our powerful restraint and meaningful messaging that doesn't rely on shock value. I smiled at the irony. The Halcyon Project had been our quietest campaign, subtle, thoughtful, built on nuance rather than noise. Everything Rosalind Mercer would have hated. The next morning, I received an unexpected visitor. Rosalind herself, standing in our reception area, looking significantly less polished than I remembered. "I need 5 minutes," she said, her voice lacking its usual imperious tone. I hesitated, then nodded. My office. We sat across from each other, an echo of our last meeting at Pinnacle. But the power dynamic had shifted dramatically. "I suppose you're enjoying this," she said. "I'm not taking pleasure in anyone's downfall, Rosalind." She looked at me skeptically. "Roland's left me. Did you know that? He blames me for everything. Says if I hadn't pushed to fire you, we'd still be successful." I kept my expression neutral. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you? Really?" She leaned forward. "Because from where I'm sitting, you've orchestrated the perfect revenge. You took everything from us without ever having to raise your voice." "That wasn't my intention." "Wasn't it?" She laughed bitterly. "Well, intentional or not, you've won. Completely and utterly. I just came to say, I underestimated you. We all did. She stood to leave, then paused. One more thing. I heard Marcella applied for a position here. I nodded. She's not loyal, Rosalind said. She'll turn on you the moment someone shinier comes along. Maybe, I agreed. Or maybe she's just trying to survive in a system that rewards certain behaviors over others. Maybe she never had the chance to show who she really is. Rosalind stared at me for a long moment. You're still too nice. That's your problem. No, I said quietly. My problem was believing that was a weakness. After she left, I sat at my desk thinking about cycles and patterns, about how easy it would be to become what I had fought against, to use my new position to punish those who had wronged me, to create a different kind of toxic culture. I picked up Marcella's resume again. Then I reached for my phone. Marcella, this is Vivian Torres from Resonance Marketing. I'd like to discuss your application. 1 year to the day after my firing, Resonance Marketing won the Archer Innovation Award. I stood on stage, microphone in hand, looking out at the sea of industry. Faces. Somewhere in that crowd was Roland Mercer, now working as a consultant for a mid-sized agency. Rosalind wasn't there. She'd moved to another state after the divorce. And beside me stood my team. Kyra, Naomi, our newest members, and yes, Marcella. Voss hiring Marcella had been controversial, both within our company and in the industry at large. Many saw it as either foolish or masochistic. But I had seen something in her interview, a glimpse of someone who, like me, had been shaped by a system that rewarded certain traits over others. The difference was that where I had been punished for my quietness, she had been rewarded for her extroversion. This award, I said into the microphone, my voice calm and measured, belongs to everyone who has ever been told they were too much or not enough, too loud or too quiet, too aggressive or too passive. The room was silent, attentive in a way that felt almost reverent. At Resonance, we believe that every voice matters, that sometimes the most important things are said softly, that listening is as valuable as speaking. I looked at my team, at Marcella, who had proved to be one of our most devoted employees, at Kira, who had believed in me when I barely believed in myself. A year ago, I was fired for being too quiet. Today, that quietness has become our strength. We don't shout to be heard. We create work that demands attention through its quality, not its volume. After the ceremony, as we celebrated at a nearby restaurant, I stepped away for a moment of solitude. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Congratulations. You deserved it. R. Roland. I stared at the message, unsure how to feel. Not triumphant, not angry, just peaceful. Another text came through, this time from Dominic Rivera, our first client. You've built something extraordinary, V. Never forget that. I looked through the restaurant window at my team, this diverse, brilliant group of people who had found their place in the company we'd created together. Some loud, some quiet, all valued. Marcella caught my eye and raised her glass in a silent toast. She'd confessed to me months ago that she'd been playing a role at Pinnacle, amplifying her natural extroversion to an exhausting degree because she thought it was what was required. At Resonance, she'd found a balance, learning to use her natural charisma more authentically. My phone buzzed one more time. A news alert. The headline made me catch my breath. Former Pinnacle CEO launches new venture. Inspired by Resonance model, Iber. Clicked through to read Roland's quote, "My previous company failed because we prioritized style over substance, volume over value. My new venture aims to correct that mistake, creating a culture where all voices are heard, regardless of how loudly they speak." I smiled to myself. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about transformation. I rejoined my team, sliding into my seat as Kira was sharing a story that had everyone laughing. She paused, making space for me in the conversation without comment or expectation. "What did I miss?" I asked. "Nothing important," she smiled. "We were waiting for you." And in that moment, surrounded by people who valued me exactly as I was, I realized that the revenge I'd taken wasn't just about the client list. It wasn't about watching Pinnacle fall or seeing Roland humbled. It was about creating a world where I could finally truly be heard without ever having to raise my voice.